Conventional and Vein Center in the state. And they've been voted Best of Utah Valley 10 years running. The 7 physicians at IVC provide state-of-the-art, comprehensive vein care with many years of experience. The team at IVC takes the time to get to know you and your veins so you're comfortable with the right diagnosis and the right treatment. Patients are like family at IVC. You've also heard many radio ads over the years with real people describing how IVC has dramatically improved their quality of life by eliminating the pain and discomfort caused by varicose veins. Well, what are you waiting for? Don't let vein disease slow you down even one more day, because life starts when the pain stops. Visit ivein.com today to set up a free screening. That's ivein.com.
If you ordered a steak sandwich and they served you bologna, you'd be ticked off.
B-O-L-O-G-N-A or B-A-L-O-N-E-Y. It doesn't matter how you spell it. It's still bologna.
Hi, this is Jason.
And Kathy of Window World.
We could go on and on about Window World, but folks, it's all about you.
Your home and what you need.
Window World is America's #1 window replacement company.
Call Window World at 801-281-8111.
Or check windowworldutah.com. And as Doug always said,
that's no baloney.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out heart-stopping letters, aggressively garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it seem impossible to ever get out of debt. Don't let the tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, the #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks that the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands. Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, they'll fight to get you the best deal possible. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Traffic and weather brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
Nice and quiet on the Valley freeways. No accidents, no delays. A little bit of heavy and slow traffic both directions of State Street, but worse on the northbound side. This is in the Midvale area between 7200 and 5300 south. The Utah RV Super Show is back September 12th through 15th at Mountain America Expo Center. Unplug from distractions and plug into your family at the Utah RV Super Show. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny today with a high of 87 degrees, up to 91 tomorrow, and this wildfire smoke should start to clear out this afternoon. Right now it's 82 degrees and sunny. I'm Britt Johnson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
We start this show every day by asking you or inviting you to think again about what you think you know. We cover a wide range of topics from what's in the political headlines and news to what's happening in our own community and looking at ways we can rethink it or get beyond the headlines. Today, we're going to do it a little different. We're going to get very creative on a single word. I'm going to ask you to rethink what you think you know about being a radical. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
So we hear a lot being tossed around these days that so-and-so is a radical left or a radical right when it comes to politics. It's all kinds of radical. We're going to get into a different kind of radical today. One of the things that I love about doing this show with you every day is that I get to start in a place of radical curiosity. I think that's something we have to get back to. Now, when we use the term radical, of course, radical means it's going to be something extreme, particularly in regards to change. If we're shifting from the accepted norms or the pattern that things have fallen into, sometimes it requires a radical shift. So we're going to go through a series of things that I think we need a little bit more radical in these days, a little less of what's become the norm or the normal in our lives, And I'm going to start right there with curiosity. I think we need a heavy infusion of radical curiosity in this country. We need to be much more curious about things that are going on around us. We need to be much more curious, radically curious, about those who live different, believe different, think different, worship different than we do. So how do you get radically curious? You start asking questions. You start asking better questions. You start asking second and third and fourth level questions. You quit rocking along with what's being served up to you in your social media feed. That's all surface. You got to dig. If you're going to be radically curious, you got to get outside the norm. And so you got to talk to people you don't normally talk to. You got to go to places you don't normally go. You have to explore sources that maybe are unfamiliar to you. But radical curiosity is something we need in every aspect of our lives, especially when it comes to the things relating to politics or good policy or what's happening in our own community and even within our own relationships. I know a lot of relationships, including many of my own, that could be much better if I engage in some radical curiosity rather than accepting what I think I already know. Another space that I think we got to get much more radical with is compassion. Some radical compassion, I think, would solve a lot of problems because radical compassion will help us overcome something else that's become radical in this country, and that's contempt. Contempt is the big driver of so many of our problems in the nation, not because it causes them, but it perpetuates the problem, and it prevents us from having the conversations we need to have to solve them. Because contempt is that belief in the worthlessness of another human being because they disagree with you or because they think different than you do. And so instead, if you go at that from a place of compassion, radical compassion, you not only start to understand more what they think or why they might think that way, but you can get much deeper than that, and you can start to see the dignity of that individual. You can see the dignity across your differences. And you can start to have completely different conversations. I think something else we've got to re-enthrone in this country and in our society as a whole is radical integrity. And it is very sad that we even have to utter this. Integrity has been so run through the mud and the muck. We've had so many, especially those in positions of trust, that have violated that trust, that suddenly we need radical integrity. Someone who's going to be so beyond the pale, someone who's going to be so above reproach that you don't even have to think about it anymore. That's where you get to some real radical integrity, where it becomes the accepted norm that I am going to trust that person because I know them, I get them, and I understand what they're going to do. If they say something, I know I can bank on it. If they make a commitment, I know they're going to keep it. But sadly, that's becoming a radical thing in our society. We have so many different laws and so many different forms and so many different legal contracts to make sure people do what they say they're going to do. But that's not going to change the dynamic. That starts individually, one person at a time. So some radical integrity would be a game changer in our communities. How about some radical restraint? This may be the hardest one in our society because everything about our society seems to be driven by instant gratification rather than restraint. And whether it's just reacting to what you see in your social media feed, and so you got to give either that pithy response or that hot take or that angry rant about what somebody said or what somebody did, restraint always works. Radical restraint always works. Because it just causes us to slow down just a little bit, engage the brain just a little longer, and allow us to evaluate, where's this really going to take me? Where's this really going to take this relationship? Just because I can say it doesn't mean I should. And so if we learn to have a little bit more restraint, that puts us in a completely different space for all kinds of conversations. Again, whether it's public policy or interpersonal relationships, restraint goes a long way. And in a society where everything is instant, everything's instant, from what you get out of your microwave oven to what you can pull up on your screen or your Hulu account. Instant access to everything all the time. But there's a great power that comes through learning restraint. And there's a whole host of things that we can apply that to, whether it's the young people and their use of technology and cell phones, even right down to the classroom. If we just take everything away, we just confiscate everything, are we really teaching them restraint? Are we teaching them moderation and respect? Because we're just taking it all away. Seems to me that's not really teaching them anything. Always goes back to what I always say. A man is not honest just because he has not had a chance to lie. But learning that kind of restraint, to step back, to look at the bigger picture, to go beyond just what you think you already know, is a big game changer. And we're going to see a lot of these things play out in the fall. And obviously there's going to be a lot centered around the presidential campaign as we march our way towards November. And there's going to be a lot of local races that will heat up as well. And there's going to be debates about big issues facing the nation and facing our community here. And so in the midst of all of that, maybe we should just try a little bit of radical. So those are your marching orders for the rest of the week and the weekend, is get a little bit radical. See if you can try on a little radical curiosity, a little radical compassion maybe might do you some good, some radical integrity, not only exhibiting it yourself, but expecting it from those you interact with or those that you're going to vote for. Maybe some radical restraint. I think ultimately that would lead us to a good place in terms of some radical unity that we really need in the country. And radical unity does not mean sameness. It means oneness in terms of our commitment to what we believe in, to living up to the principles we profess to believe, and the way we've committed to treat each other with some radical compassion, some radical dignity, especially across our differences. So maybe just get a little radical today and think of some other places and spaces where maybe taking a radical approach to it might actually be a good thing for a change. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson.
Finally.
September. Things are finally going to get back to normal.
We are one step closer to having a section of downtown Salt Lake City transformed.
Utah Senate Democrats say there's no need for the special session.
The air quality is hazy and unhealthy for all groups.
They say it's not true. There's no ticket quota.
Since when is there a normal anyway? We're tracking these stories to keep you updated on key developments. Listen each day this week to KSL News Radio.
It's me again, and of course, I'm at the annual Fall Extravaganza at J&J Garden Center in Layton. And what a great time to buy. Right now, all containerized trees, all shrubs, and all perennials are 20% off. You heard me right. J&J's entire inventory of containerized trees, shrubs, and perennials are 20% off their regular price. J&J Garden Center definitely has the best products at the best price and most definitely the best service too. But don't take my word for it. Come experience J&J Garden Center for yourself. Take advantage of their incredible fall tree, shrub, and perennial extravaganza. Take the Layton Parkway exit, Main Street to Gentile, then west 2 miles. You've got to see it to believe it. You really do.
Country grown to your home. J&J Garden Center.
Winter is coming, but there's still time to replace those drafty old windows before the cold comes and drives up your heating bill. Just make one call and take advantage of the Advanced Window Products Fall Special. $2,500 off on 10 windows or more, and that's $2,500 off their already low factory direct prices because at Advanced Window Products, they're the factory. Your windows are built in their facility right here in Salt Lake City. You're buying local, and with their lifetime guarantee, you don't ever have to call some faraway state for help. Advanced Window Products is right here. proudly backing up their work, so make one call, save on your heating bill, and get a rebate from the energy companies. Advanced Window Products offer 0% financing. They can even give you amazing new windows with no money down. And don't forget, $2,500 off their factory direct prices, but you have to call now. Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
None of these 7 people scored the winning touchdown in last year's championship game. None have gone into space or gone on tour with Taylor Swift. Yet 7 special people in the community deserve your attention. And September 7th at the Utah Valley Convention Center, starting at 6 p.m., you can give it to them. Join Community Action Services and Food Bank in celebrating the contributions of 7 extraordinary members of the community. Then see the premiere of the Food and More store, a pop-up giving experience you can only experience at this event. Plus, you'll have the chance to peek inside their new mobile food pantry. Dinner, live music, entertainment. Get details now on how you can be a part of this exceptional community night. Visit casfb.org and learn more about the evening, the individuals being honored, and how to be there to take it all in. casfb.org. Community Action Services and Food Bank, providing food and more to neighbors in need in Wasatch, Summit, and Utah counties.
It's one thing falling in love with a house, picturing yourself moving in and calling it home, and quite another navigating the world of price negotiating, mortgage lenders, and finding the budget that works best for you. An agent who's a Realtor can make understanding that world easier. Realtors have the expertise, access to proprietary data, and tools to help you get from imagining living somewhere to actually doing it. That's the kind of help we can provide, because that's who we are. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up! And call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single line 1, 5, and 10 gig data plans with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plans offered by T-Mobile and Verizon January 2024.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson.
When we're trying to digest the news of the day, we have to remember that instant certainty is the enemy of truth. A flashy headline may distract you from the real issue and the important conversations underneath.
Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson, 1 to 3 on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Britt Johnson. First, Kamala Harris is giving some of her donations to rural Democratic races. Second, Utah's consumer sentiment increased over 2% in August, according to the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute. Third, in Phoenix today, it's breaking its all-time record for the most 110-plus degree days in a year, with 56. Right now, it's 82 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
In an effort to win crucial votes in battleground states, both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have put forward some economic proposals. Some of them are not only performative, but will probably end up being detrimental if implemented to the economy and to the very people they claim they want to help. So the cynical move is that they're hoping that the policies sound good enough and that voters won't actually think again or look underneath the hood to what the actual impact these policies would have on their lives. So in the end, I think it's bad politics, it's bad economics, and we've got to get to a different standard when it comes to our political candidates and what they're actually selling to voters across the country. Ilya Selman, author and professor of law at George Mason University and the B. Kenneth Simon Chair in Constitutional Studies at the Cato Institute, has a fantastic piece in The Hill talking about how both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are preying on this element of political ignorance. And Ilya, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's dig into this. We're equal opportunity offenders on this program, and so we don't care where people fall on the political spectrum. But a lot of what's coming out is just really really bad policies that sound good as a bumper sticker. And so how do we change the dynamic on that?
I think it's very difficult to change it in the short run because most voters have very little incentive to be well informed about policy. Modern government has a lot of complicated functions. If your only incentive to learn about that is to be a better voter, that turns out not to be much of an incentive at all because the chance that your one vote will change the outcome of an election is infinitesimally small. So in my work, I talk about how in the long run we can alter the structure of incentives to make political ignorance less damaging than it currently is. But I'd be lying if I said there's an easy, simple solution that can be implemented quickly.
That's right. There's no bumper sticker slogan for this either that's going to solve the problem. This is going to take it's going to take some hard work and heavy lifting from we the people. We have to engage in this and do that. Let's go down some of you cited a couple of the examples, whether it's tariffs, whether it's some of the tax giveaways and so on. But just give us a sense of how some of those sound so good at the top level, but what the real impact might end up being in the end.
Sure. So, for example, one of Donald Trump's big proposals in this campaign is to impose 10% tariffs on virtually all foreign goods imported into the U.S. And the slogan here is going to protect American jobs and boost the economy. But in actual fact, such massive tariffs would greatly increase the price and reduce the quality of many of the goods that we buy. And it would probably actually cost more jobs than it created because many American industries depend in large part on imported goods as inputs. For example, in Trump's first term, his steel and aluminum tariffs actually destroyed more jobs than they created because a lot of products made in the U.S. use steel and aluminum as inputs. Moreover, of course, the damage will be worse once other countries retaliate against our tariffs, as they almost certainly would.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, Vice President Harris has been out on her own bumper sticker campaign talking about price gouging and big businesses. And really underneath, again, sounds good on the top level, but price controls don't have a great history in terms of actually helping the little guy and the little gal.
Yeah. So as with tariffs, there is a near consensus among economists that price controls are harmful and that they hurt the public. And the big reason why is that when the government artificially restricts prices, that creates shortages. A high price is a signal to producers to create more of the good or service that has the high price. If you cut off that signal, you cause shortages, distortions in the economy, and other sorts of problems. That's what happened when Richard Nixon imposed price controls in the 1970s. It's what happened in other countries around the world that have used them. And if we were to do it for groceries, as Kamala Harris has at times proposed, the result would be a shortage of groceries, not an improvement in people's situation. But as you say, it does sound good because people say, well, lower price would be good. And many people also believe wrongly, I think, that the cause of the recent price increases is corporate greed. And it's true, corporations are certainly greedy for profits, but that can't account for recent price increases because it's not like the corporations were not greedy 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. Rather, what accounts for them is a combination of supply problems plus massive government spending, putting more money in the economy during COVID and immediately after.
Yeah. So as we look at the solution to all of this, because it's so easy for candidates and especially for political consultants to say, hey, this is going to sound great. People are going to love this. But we have to get underneath all of that. And one of the things that you point out in your piece that we often talk about is federalism, is reducing what's happening at the federal level, getting it back to the state and local, because it's easier for a voter to kind of vote with their feet on what's happening locally than it is to keep track of all the complexities of what's happening nationally.
So I think one possible way to reduce the danger of political ignorance is to decentralize power to local and state governments, but also to the private sector, so people could make more decisions by voting with their feet. When you vote with your feet, you can do that in the federal system by choosing which state or local government to live in, or also in the private sector by choosing what product to buy or what organizations to join. And if you're like most people, you probably devote more time and effort to acquiring information when you decide what television set to buy than when you decide who to vote for president or for any other office. And the reason why is that when you buy a TV set, you know more than likely the one you choose is the one that will actually end up in your living room, so you think about it more carefully. On the other hand, when you turn on the TV and you have the misfortune to see the president or some other politician, the chance that you can affect their policies is very low, so you pay less attention to that decision. So people's incentives to acquire relevant knowledge are better when they vote with their feet. Moreover, if the federal government was less complicated and had fewer functions, there would be less for voters to keep track of. So even if they were willing to devote only a small amount of time to learning about political issues, that small amount of time would be less inadequate compared to what they have to keep track of.
This is great perspective. You can check out this piece at The Hill, thehill.com. And Ilya Soman, as we talked about at the outset, is an author, professor of law at George Mason University, and the B. Kenneth Simon Chair in Constitutional Studies at the Cato Institute. And Professor Selman, so great to have you on the program. Great thinking, great writing. These are the kinds of things our listeners like to engage in because they are the higher propensity voters and they're more engaged in this process. But I love how you've gone about all of this. You've given us a lot to think about today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Again, that's Professor Selman. And I love the way he closed out his piece as he talked about how do we do that? How do we avoid being ignorant as a voter? Because, again, a lot of campaigns are counting on you not doing your homework, not doing the research like you will when you buy your new big screen TV. And this idea of decentralizing, getting things more back to the local levels so you can vote with your feet. In the concluding line of his piece at The Hill, Professor Selman said, at the very least, we must recognize political ignorance is a serious problem. If we continue neglecting it, we can expect more awful policies. It's easy to spew out these policy ideas, and we talked about some that are coming from Vice President Harris and some that are coming from former President Trump that may sound good in a populist giveaway kind of way, but the results will be damaging. And in most cases, they'll be most damaging to the people they're saying they're trying to help, or the bumper sticker they're handing out, hoping that that's all that people look like and look at before they actually cast their vote. So we can't be part of the political ignorance problem. We have to be part of the education process and really look beyond the headlines and dig into some of these issues so that we can cast some votes with confidence. And then we can actually hold people accountable for real results as well. All right, we'll step aside for some bottom of the hour news. More Inside Sources coming up next here on KSL News Radio. Stick around. We'll be right back.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top story this hour, new information and charges have come to light in the case of a Kearns man who fired 13 shots into another vehicle while his children were in the back seat. KSL News Radio's Eric Cabrera has the latest.
33-year-old Tony Robinson is facing charges of attempted murder, a first-degree felony, according to new court documents. They indicate that Robinson allegedly targeted another driver who he believed to be associated with a rival gang, making threats about putting a bullet in his head. After unloading his 9mm handgun, Robinson left bullet holes and shattered the rear passenger window of the other car, but the victim wasn't injured.
According to charging documents, witnesses saw Robinson still holding the gun as he removed his 6- and 3-year-old children from the car at his Sandy apartment complex. Zion National Park is the first national park system to fully transition to electric transit. A zero-emission visitor shuttle is now operational at Zion, and it furthers the federal sustainability plan, which directs federal agencies to lead by example and achieve net zero emissions by 2050. Your money at this moment, the Dow in the red, 229 points. The S&P also down 17 points. The NASDAQ is in the green at 37 points. Coming up, our temperatures are going to climb a little bit. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
News News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
My wife and I always loved doing everything together. Jiu-jitsu, kayaking, and intimacy was always on point. It was around my early 30s when I noticed a downward trend. Watching a lot of TV, putting on weight, and just full of self-doubt. I had tried another men's clinic with disappointing results. It's the personalized treatment I receive at Revive Men's Health that has been the complete game changer for me. I've got my energy and motivation back, I'm feeling stronger than I did in my 20s, and it made me a much better husband to my wife.
I'm Eric Ramos, healthcare provider at Revive Men's Health. If you're always feeling tired or moody, have a difficult time sleeping, or decreased libido, you may be suffering from low testosterone.
Book your free T-check and exam at Revive Men's Health, Salt Lake City. Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Dave and Dujanovic.
If you're driving to work or you're driving the kids to a soccer game, we're your in-car companions.
People will come up to me and say, "Oh, I talk to you every day. You don't realize it because I'm talking at the radio, but I talk to you every day."
Listen for Dave and Dujanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Tommy! I can't wait for golf this weekend, huh, buddy? Time flies. Love you, man. Oh, don't forget your knee brace again. We aren't in college anymore.
Moments together matter, so help protect yourself from RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV, and there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Everyone on the road is trying to make it to their destination safely. You can help by staying aware of the large trucks and buses around you. They take longer to stop, have large blind spots, and make wide turns that require caution from other drivers. It takes all of us working together to share the road safely. Learn more at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov. Paid for by FMCSA.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
No accidents on your Valley freeways or main secondaries, but be aware of road work taking up the left lane of travel going northbound on Legacy Parkway, going from Woods Cross into Bountiful. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny today, a high of 87 degrees. This wildfire smoke should start clearing out this afternoon. And with that, 90-degree temperatures are coming back up to 93 degrees for Saturday. Right now, it's 83 degrees and sunny. I'm Britt Johnson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. I'm Boyd Matheson. It's great to be with you as always. In today's complex regulatory landscape, the concept of a permission slip economy, or a mother may I kind of economy, has emerged as a significant barrier to innovation, to growth, to individual liberty. From housing development to energy projects, businesses and individuals often find themselves navigating this incredibly complicated, intricate web of permits and approval that often slows, if not completely kills, progress. So as we examine the balance, and I think there's a balance between necessary oversight and economic freedom, I think this is a space where we could get pretty radical in terms of some reform that would reshape the country's future for the better. We often turn to Veronique DeRougy, contributing editor at Reason. She's a senior fellow at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University. Has a great piece about government permitting and what it's doing to the economy, and joins us on the show. And Veronique, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's start with the permission slip economy. That may be the best labeling and branding that we've had in a while. We know there's been a lot of things going on relating to U.S. Steel of late in terms of trying to sell the business. Give us a breakdown of that and then how that applies to this whole idea of permission slip economy.
Basically I didn't have time or space to actually list everything that we Americans or people living in this country and working in this country and investing in this country and building in this country have to ask permission for. But what I wanted to actually kind of say is it's become utterly crazy. There's nothing that we do where we don't first have to ask permission to the government before we do it. If you want to build on your property, the government has already dictated all sorts of things that you can do. That for instance, there are places where all you can build is a single family home. Other places is you can't have mixed use, or and for energy projects, the permitting process takes years and years and years. If you want to sell your company to another company, you have to ask, basically, the government can actually block it. Sometimes it's because of size. Sometimes it's because of who wants to buy it. Sometimes, everything you can think about, we have to ask. The government can interfere and basically say, no, you can't do this. And I think kind of, we have these rules, and I agree with you. There's a balance. There's the balance to be had, but we have no balance right now. Right.
Yeah,
we have no balance. I even said, in my intro, it's like the airlines had to ask permission to the FAA to be able to distribute hand sanitizer during COVID to their passenger.
Wow. Yeah, there are so many things that just seem so common sense. And so many of it, and you listed these so well in your piece. And I love this idea that, look, this isn't just stifling, businesses moving forward, which it is, but even a lot of the things that people say, hey, we're all on board. Let's do, let's build a project. Let's build a bridge. Let's do green energy. And many are finding that even those kinds of things can't get off the ground because the permitting process, as you said, is years or longer. And is incredibly costly and includes a whole bunch of lawsuits because of the permitting process.
Yes. So, for energy projects is actually really, some of the worst. And even the one that the Democrats, for instance, who were very much in favor of this long permitting process, because a lot of the stuff is environmental and it takes years and years and years and years. And now, apparently, there are a bunch of judges who've started saying, even if you've spent years getting those permits, if we are lobbied by special interests who thinks that the permitting process wasn't rigorous enough, we can actually kind of just suspend that permission. And it's just it's really the economic impact is terrible. But if you think about just the permitting process just for housing, individual housing, and whether it's homes or apartment buildings, and is so long and is so restrictive that there are cities that have very high demand because they're very rich job markets with higher wages. They have serious shortages of housing, which means that the price of housing is extremely high, whether you buy or whether you rent. And what that means, right, is that people who want to leave job markets where there's high unemployment and lower wage, usually they can't even go to these markets that would have much better jobs for them because they can't afford the rent.
Yeah.
And the rent is artificially inflated due to all these government restriction. And these government restrictions is the government saying, no, you can do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. If you do it, you have to do it by jumping through all those hoops. And it just and you multiply this at the scale of all the things that are the most important for us, and you get really an economy that's not just really expensive, but also we're extremely constrained.
Right. Yeah, and that is such a big concern. I love that you put in the piece some of the ideas that are out there in terms of permitting reform. Just run through real quickly a couple of those, whether it's a shot clock or some of the redundancy. Give us some of the things that we should be talking about when it comes to permitting reform that might change the dynamic.
Well, so I think kind of the ideal, the standard, right? And by the way, I mean, some of those permitting constraints are put very, very heavily on innovators. When people have to before they put out and market and sell new things, they have to show that nothing can go wrong. So basically, it makes it impossible to actually bring out innovations to market. So I think the default position should be that we shouldn't have to actually ask for permission. We should be able to do it, and then if you do something wrong, then you pay the price, the consequence. Now, there could be some guardrails, of some minimum things that can be done to preserve life, but it's excessive now. Yeah. So permissionless innovation, permissionless building, permissionless working, permissionless, I think we should be the default. But short of this, a process that rather than say, well, first it's going to take 3 years to get this permit, and then you have to apply to that other permit, and then you have to apply to that other permit, which leads to sometimes 5 years, 6 years before you can even start a project. And usually the better and more capital-intensive project requires even longer. There should be a one-stop permitting that looks at the entire project, that issues all the permits all at once, and also we should put a clock on it. Yeah. It should say, I don't know, it should be 6 months. It doesn't seem crazy for me to demand. We have a lot of government employees. I think I actually just looked at 21.6 million government employees. No, not all of them at all levels of federal, state, and local. Not all of them right in the permitting business. But actually, I think that there's a lot of inefficiency everywhere, and I would put more people in order to actually really streamline and speed up the permitting process in the U.S. because it's really strangling the economy.
Yeah, no question about it. Fantastic piece, great thinking, great writing as always. Veronique Derougy, contributing editor at Reason, also senior research fellow at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University. And Veronique, always love to have you on the show. Great perspective.
Thank you for having me.
This is one we got to get back to, so we will keep on it. We look forward to having you back soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
That's Veronique Derougy joining us. And I love the way she closed out her piece saying, hey, this isn't just about good policy, it's a moral imperative. Because permitting reform is about restoring that healthy power balance between government and individual, ensuring that America remains a place where innovation thrives, entrepreneurs succeed, and opportunity is universal. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates. This weekend only, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 13 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, and Nevada, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, or other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 90 days from a station contest or event are not eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com.
Want to keep your gas-powered engines running like new? Stable's proprietary formulas are proven by third-party testing to outperform the competition in keeping fuel fresh, preventing corrosion, and cleaning the entire fuel system. With Stable, you can have confidence you are doing the right thing for your engine's long-term health. Just pour into your gas can or fuel tank, then top off with fresh fuel. At every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable. Available where fuel additives are sold.
At the UPS Store, we understand the importance of a first impression. That's why we're here to help you put your best foot forward and be unstoppable with our printing services. With high-quality paper stock options, banners, business cards, menus, and more, we make sure your small business stands out and your message reaches the masses. After all, we're the one-stop prints that pop store. Most locations are independently owned. Product, services, prices, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS Store. Be unstoppable. Come into your local store today and get your print on.
A secure retirement just doesn't happen by accident. When that day comes, what's most important to you? Are you sure to have more money than month? What about unexpected medical costs? Do you want to leave something to the kids or the grandkids? I'm Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I want you to know we specialize in these questions and can help make your retirement dream a reality with some of the highest guarantees in the business. Imagine getting up to a guaranteed 12% growth on your retirement income and up to a 30% bonus up front just for opening an account. If you have funds sitting idle in an old 401k or IRA, consider guaranteeing it to secure the peace of mind you deserve. Don't leave your financial security to chance. Take advantage of the highest guarantees I've seen in my career. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600. Or visit us online at TrajanWealth.com.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
Beatty, Nevada, your getaway to Death Valley, an entryway to a true desert adventure. Enjoy exciting offerings for all your senses and imagination. In Beatty, visit Eddie World, the largest candy store in Nevada, and visit their historic museum, the ghost town of Rhyolite, and see sculptures in the desert at Goldwell. Hiking, biking, and hundreds of miles of ATV trails await you. For the ultimate adventure, make Beatty, Nevada your next destination and claim a free gift at BeattyNevada.org. Wrangle up some fun at Beatty Days 2024, Friday, October 25th through Sunday, October 27th. It's old-fashioned family fun with a chili cook-off, live music, bed races, a classic car show, cornhole and horseshoe tournaments, model railroads, a parade, food and craft vendors, contests for everyone, and lots more. The fun is in Beatty, Nevada this October 25th through the 27th. Visit BeattyNevada.org for the full schedule. That's BeattyNevada.org.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, what are you waiting for? Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy. It got so bad, I couldn't do my homework. I couldn't concentrate. I absolutely refused to let any of my friends come to our house for any reason. I would have been humiliated if anyone found out how much my dad drank and how loud my mom screamed at him. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful. The only thing that happened is my mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. Her relationship with my dad really changed. I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I wanted to see if I could have a better relationship with my dad. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
Hey, I'm Casey Scott, and I have a podcast called Project Recovery, inspiring stories about going from rock bottom to living addiction-free. Follow us on KSLpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Britt Johnson. First, Tony Robinson is facing charges of attempted murder, a first-degree felony for firing 13 shots into another vehicle while his children were in the back seat. Second, Zion National Park is the first national park system to fully transition to electric transit. Third, new data from the National Youth Tobacco Survey shows e-cigarette use among teens and preteens has dropped to the lowest level in a decade. Right now, it's 83 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Well, the U.S. job market is showing signs of some significant shifts, and we're going to break down all of those numbers and what they actually mean and what we can expect economically moving forward as we march our way towards the holiday. And, oh, yeah, there's that little election thing on the first Tuesday of November might have some impact there as well. On days like today, I always just say, oh, this is a Jeff Cox day. Now, I would probably have Jeff Cox on every day to help me understand the numbers and what it actually means to us. But he's agreed to join us today. And Jeff Cox, of course, is the economics editor for CNBC.com, covers the latest data, the Federal Reserve, and how all these developments impact the financial markets. And Jeff had a great piece today talking about the layoff jumps in August. And Jeff, welcome back to the show. It's always good to have you on, and we will have you on every day if we can slam it into your schedule.
You got it. Great to be here, Boyd, as always.
Break down the numbers for us, first of all, in terms of really some significant shifts there in August. What did we find out, and what is it telling us?
Well, we found out that we saw a significant spike in layoffs in August, particularly when you compare it month over month. August traditionally is a big month for this as we go through some of our seasonal patterns, but this was even bigger than normal, and in fact, it was the biggest August for layoffs since going back to 2009, which we know was happening in the world back in 2009. We're just kind of trying to crawl out of the morass from the global financial crisis. So that was really rough. And then when you look at hirings, the picture was no better. The year-to-date hirings were the lowest level in the history of the survey that Challenger, Gray, and Christmas, they're an outplacement jobs firm that they do monthly. It goes all the way back to 2005. So showing definitely a slowdown pace in hiring, pickup in layoffs. I think that, kind of the general narrative with the jobs market right now is that companies are very reticent in hiring. We saw that with the Fed's Beige Book that was out yesterday, and we got an additional report from ADP today that also showed a significant slowdown in hiring. So definitely swirling winds for the jobs market, and a lot for the Fed to sift through here.
Yeah, and let's unpack that just a little bit. Those are pretty stunning numbers in terms of 15-year totals, 19-year totals. And so give us some of the undercurrents to that. What is it that is causing all of this to come to a head right now? And then, as you were alluding to, how's that going to impact what the Fed chooses to do or not do here in September?
Well, the big issue for layoffs in August was the technology sector really was responsible, drove a lot of that. And, of course, that's a sector that we're all keeping our eyes on right now because it's been particularly turbulent area for the stock market right now. We've seen tech be the biggest drag on the market after propelling us to all those big gains. And we saw, NVIDIA go crazy and all of those big those big Magnificent Seven stocks, and now that there's been a little bit of repricing there, and a little bit of jitterness, some jitters now in Silicon Valley over some of the valuations for companies, and whether the whole AI theme has not gotten to be a little bit overblown, and now kind of going, perhaps not. Somebody had said this to me earlier. Going from not necessarily downsizing, but to right-sizing the employment picture. So when you look at all that, it basically adds to the narrative of where we expect the Fed to be. Of course, the market fully pricing in at least a quarter point rate cut when the Fed convenes on the 17th and the 18th of this month. There's been certainly some sentiment in the market that the Fed might want to be a little bit more aggressive than that and go with a half a point cut. And I think tomorrow's jobs report is going to be the big factor. Even though they say they're not data point dependent, I think that this jobs report tomorrow is going to be kind of first among equals in terms of how the Fed views its options this month.
Yeah, maybe not data point dependent, but definitely data point influenced.
Yeah, for sure.
In some of those. And so talk to us in terms of the politics of all of this. Clearly, this is another area where, again, you can say the economy has seen some growth. You've seen some of those positive things. And, of course, President Biden and now Vice President Harris as the Democratic nominee have been trying to tout. And yet there's still that undercurrent of what people are feeling at home, where they're seeing their neighbor get laid off or seeing some challenges in their own community. What did the choppy waters look like as we head down the home stretch in a pretty big presidential campaign?
Yeah, I think that as you sift through a lot of this stuff and you get beyond all of the little, petty political attacks and that kind of stuff, the old adage is always that people vote with their wallets. So the economy is going to be squarely in that picture. It was interesting to me that I sat down as all these numbers were coming out today, and I wrote a little preview story that's up on CNBC.com right now about the jobs report tomorrow. And I didn't highlight this number today. I'll probably write about it tomorrow. But when you look at what the total non-farm payroll creation is, when you compare the numbers where we're at now to where we were pre-COVID, and you kind of average that out on a monthly basis, we've created about 120,000 jobs a month during that duration. And, of course, much of that time being as President Biden has been in office and Vice President Harris. So when you see some of those eye-popping numbers, you think, oh, we've created all these jobs and everything. But when you look at it net, the jobs market has not been as brilliant as it looks on the surface. When you get into that, when you really start to dig through these numbers against that household survey, which is where the unemployment rate comes from, and you see that so many of these jobs have been part-time jobs as compared to full-time. You see a much slower pace of not job creation, but actually working people out there, which is what the household survey measures. And now you're starting to see the unemployment rate creep up. The estimate for tomorrow's report is 161,000, I think it is, for non-farm payrolls, and a tick down in the 164,000, I think, is a tick down in the unemployment rate to 4.2%. Seems a tad ambitious to me right now to expect that to happen. So if the jobs market really starts to weaken, and a quarter point cut or even a 50 basis point cut at this point from the Fed is not going to make any difference between now and November in the state of the economy. So it all makes things very complicated, and of course, Vice President Harris has to run on this economic record. So it could end up being a tough slog for her.
Yeah, very complicated to say the least. Jeff Cox always helps us ferret it all out and get down to the issues that really matter around the kitchen table. And, of course, Jeff Cox is the economics editor for CNBC.com. You can check out all of his pieces there at CNBC.com. For some great insight to really help you sift through just the headline stuff, get underneath the numbers, and look at what they actually mean. Jeff, as always, we appreciate you making time for us. We appreciate the sacrifice and the insight because it helps us navigate the choppy waters just a little bit better. Thanks so much for joining us.
Sure, and I guess I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, awesome. We're going to book that. I'm going to have Shane lock you in right now. All right, Jeff Cox, as always, thanks so much for joining us. Best of the best, Jeff Cox, and we are thrilled that he's always willing to come on this show and talk to you about what these numbers mean and the impact that it will have in a wide array of things. And that's why we do what we do, because we can get people like Jeff Cox to talk to you. All right, that wraps up hour number 1 of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. We'll step aside for some top-of-the-hour news, but don't go anywhere. Big hour number 2 of Inside Sources coming up next right here on KSL News Radio.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top story this hour, a legal expert is speaking out after several recent cases of kids getting a hold of their parents' guns in Utah and elsewhere. KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas says there's no one factor that determines whether or not a parent will face charges when a child hurts themselves or others.
You have to look at all the facts of the case. To what extent was the gun available? To what extent did the child, or should the child have known that the gun was there? To what extent did the parent even recognize the danger?
Greg says each case is unique, and even when prosecutors feel there was negligence or recklessness, sometimes they won't pursue charges given the parents are already suffering, especially when they lose their own child. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A day after Vice President Harris laid out her economic proposals, former President Trump has outlined his. ABC's national news correspondent Stephen Portnoy reports.
In a speech to the Economic Club of New York, Donald Trump said he'd bring about an economic revival.
I am promising low taxes, low regulations, low energy costs.
Trump said he'd blast through bureaucratic hurdles to increase the domestic energy supply.
My plan will cut energy prices in half or more than that.
Trump also said he'd push to lower the corporate tax rate from 21 to 15%, and he said he'd appoint Elon Musk to lead a new federal commission to eliminate fraudulent payments. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
Your money at this moment, the Dow down 219 points, the S&P is down 16 points, but the NASDAQ has gained 43 points. Coming up, our air is clearing out. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 2:01.
Great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the 9s, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
None of these 7 people scored the winning touchdown in last year's championship game. None have gone into space or gone on tour with Taylor Swift. Yet 7 special people in the community deserve your attention. And September 7th at the Utah Valley Convention Center, starting at 6 p.m., you can give it to them. Join Community Action Services and Food Bank in celebrating the contributions of 7 extraordinary members of the community. Then see the premiere of the Food and More Store, a pop-up giving experience you can only experience at this event. Plus, you'll have the chance to peek inside their new mobile food pantry. Dinner, live music, entertainment. Get details now on how you can be a part of this exceptional community night. Visit casfb.org and learn more about the evening, the individuals being honored, and how to be there to take it all in. casfb.org. Community Action Services and Food Bank, providing food and more to neighbors in need in Wasatch, Summit, and Utah counties.
Hi everyone, it's Congressman Blake Moore here. It's been a busy summer visiting communities and meeting with Utahns across the 1st District. My Ogden-based office has also enjoyed engaging with you at many local events. We're always grateful to connect with you. I'd love to continue hearing your thoughts on what is happening in Congress and how current issues impact you and your family, from inflation to border security and everything in between. Please join me for my next telephone town hall on Thursday, September 5th at 12 p.m. by dialing in at 833-305-1678. That's 833-305-1678 on Thursday, September 5th at 12 p.m. Due to U.S. law, I will be unable to communicate with constituents 60 days leading up to the general election unless you are subscribed to our weekly e-newsletter and follow us on social media. So be sure to subscribe and follow today. You can sign up for our e-newsletter at blakemore.house.gov and follow along on social media at Rep. Blake Moore. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you on September 5th. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
The Utah RV Super Show, the premier RV event of the year, is back at the Mountain America Expo Center, Thursday, September 12th through Sunday, September 15th. Come see new 2025 models and special closeout pricing on all 2024 models. Bring a can of food for the Utah Food Bank and get $1 off per can, up to half off adult admission. Unplug from distractions and plug in to your family at the Utah RV Super Show. Discount passes at utahRVSupershow.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
Looks like crews have just about cleaned up the debris that was on the on-ramp to northbound I-15 from Payson's Main Street. That's near mile marker 251. And traffic is able to enter the freeway going northbound again. Downtown drivers, Salt Lake City PD working a crash at 3rd West, 200 North. Another accident in the cleanup stages, 1500 East at 500 South. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny today, a high of 87 degrees. This smoky air that's been lingering will start to clear out this afternoon, and higher temperatures moving in, getting up to 93 degrees on Saturday. Right now, it's 85 degrees and sunny. I'm Britt Johnson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, the headlines as the 2024 U.S. presidential election approaches, there's all kinds of political narratives that are becoming increasingly contradictory and controversial. We all could benefit from a often forgotten little principle called Hanlon's razor, and how we may want to rethink what might be a conspiracy and might be something else. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, it is time to think again about what we think we know, especially when it comes to all the conspiracy theories that are really spiraling out of control on both the left and the right, almost to comical degrees. But it's important for all of us to stay grounded and to make sure we can make sense of what is actually happening and why. We are thrilled to have joining us on the program Catherine Mengue-Ward, who is the editor-in-chief of Reason. And Catherine, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
And at first, I want to give just a big thank you for allowing so many of your brilliant people who have such great writing and such thinking to join us on our show on a regular basis. They are doing extraordinary work, and we love the conversations we get to have with all of those from our friends over at Reason. And now we get to talk to you today about Hanlon's razor. And so for people who didn't wake up this morning either remembering or thinking about Hanlon's razor, give us the backstory.
Sure. So this is a saying that I really, really think is important to keep in mind, especially as politics heats up. And it's just a very simple idea, a reminder not to attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. Another way you can phrase it is never attribute to conspiracy that which can be explained by incompetence. And I just think keeping this in the background of all of our attempts to understand, particularly those who disagree with us politically, is a really helpful thing to do.
Yeah, and I think you hit it right on the head there, that so often we look at someone that we disagree with politically or is on a different position on the spectrum in terms of their politics, and we immediately go to malice, we immediately go to conspiracy, we go to bad intentions, and in a lot of cases, it might be incompetence, or it may just be a difference of opinion. And so having that as the starting place is so important. You walked through in your piece just some of the things that have been popping up just recently. Just kind of guide us through that and how we ought to be thinking maybe a little differently about that.
Sure. I mean, I completely understand how you could be looking at the headlines in 2024 and think, this is an evil cabal who are running things. But you could really be tempted to that explanation. Certainly, folks on the left who are concerned about Project 2025 and just the ways that might be shaping the Republican agenda. On the right, looking at the very, very rapid departure of Joe Biden and rise of Kamala Harris in his place, you might say, gosh, this is really a sign that the other side is not only evil, but really good at being evil. They've really got everything rigged. And I think that it's just, in fact, the clearer explanation for so many of these developments is everyone's just doing their best, and their best isn't very good.
Yeah.
Just people are not great at staging and pulling off grand conspiracies. They are really great at stumbling into whatever state of affairs we find themselves.
Yeah, and there is a group of people who are really good at creating conspiracy theories out of just incompetence or really poor performance by someone. As I was reading your piece, I almost had to just stop myself because I was just chuckling along with so many examples of when I worked in the Senate as a chief of staff, or even just looking at things from a business perspective, like, oh yeah, I can see how we created a conspiracy theory in the office about, this vice president or this particular person. It's an easy habit to fall into, and it seems that with social media, it's easier than ever for just about anything to turn into a conspiracy as opposed to just incompetence.
That's right. And I think, as I mentioned, Project 2025 is such a great example of this. So this is the idea that somebody, maybe the Heritage Institute, maybe a group of power players in conservative politics have put together a roadmap for what would happen under the next Trump administration. And you saw it on display over and over at the DNC. They made it into like this big storybook kind of looking thing, and they kept holding it up. This is such a fundamental misunderstanding of what's going on to panic about Project 2025. First of all, every think tank in D.C. has some kind of roadmap, some kind of plan, some kind of vision for the next administration. Doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Right.
And Donald Trump himself has basically said, I don't know who these Project 2025 guys are, and they're not the boss of me. It's all vanity. It's all pretense. It's really very little in the category of highly competent villainy, which is what the folks at the DNC were trying to paint it as.
Yeah. And then, of course, on the flip side of that, you have those on the right who have been going through the, when President Biden's bubble wrap burst and the whole switcheroo kind of thing. Kind of walk us through some of those things and how, even if they were really, really, really good at being villains, this still probably isn't the scenario they would have gone with.
Right. So this is, the Project Bubble Wrap is the terminology that some folks in Biden's inner circle used to describe the ways in which they were managing his deficits. And, I think what we see here is that his advisors probably kind of foolishly overestimated their capacity to do that, and also just guessed wrong about the speed of his decline. I think each of them individually understood that he was not quite as sharp as he had been, but I don't think they got together in a room and said, well, we're going to have to lie to the American people about this demented old man until we can puppet his way through the next administration. I'm sure there was one or two people who thought that, but overall, nobody's big picture game plan would be the chaotic scramble that we ended up with. That's just not an ideal. And again, I just think assuming that everyone was a little too hopeful and a little too blinkered is a much more powerful explanation. Again, this is, Hamlin's razor is like Occam's razor, right? Which takes us to the simplest explanation. We're just looking for what is the simplest explanation here, and everyone screwed up a little bit is a far more likely one.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we continue to march our way down these last 60 days or so to the first Tuesday of November, what do you hope that people will be thinking about, especially as different scenarios? We know those are going to be all kinds of little ebbs and flows and bumps and stories that are going to come out between now and the first Tuesday of November. Help us walk through, how do we make sure that we stay grounded in reality, that we don't immediately go to the contempt side or the conspiracy side? What's the right way to get underneath some of those headlines that may cause us to go astray in terms of what reality looks like?
Sure. I think the most important thing is probably to recognize why conspiracism and conspiracy theories are so appealing, because there is something perversely comforting about the idea that someone somewhere is in charge, that someone knows what they're doing, that someone is highly competent, even if they're your perceived enemies or people who disagree with you. I think that leads people to kind of take on a victim mentality and also to let go of their own personal responsibility. So I guess what I would say is, as we come into the end of the election here, it really is incumbent on voters and news consumers to try to figure out as best they can what's really going on, which candidate they think would be best for the country, to just kind of throw up your hands and say, the other side is too evil and too powerful. Whoever the other side is not sort of an appropriate and productive way to go forward. Individuals do have a lot of power, and you should be exercising yours, not theorizing what you can't.
Yeah, I think that's so crucial that we can't become victims. That is where a lot of the populist messages on both the left and the right get really ginned up. But I think you nailed it in terms of there's still personal responsibility. And if you're the victim, or if there is some grand conspiracy theorist out there making all of this and pulling all the strings, then you can just kind of throw up your hands and say, hey, not my fault, not my job, when we actually do all have a job to do, and that is to be informed, that is to make the best decision based on information. And to me, it's that opportunity to think again about what we think we know and not just give in to the conspiracy theories that make us feel helpless or cause us to walk around in a defensive crouch, as opposed to standing up and to engaging in those higher level conversations. Fantastic piece. You can check it out at reason.com. Catherine Mengu-Ward, editor-in-chief of Reason. And Catherine, thanks so much for joining us. It's been great to have you on the program. Again, thanks to all of your extraordinary staff of writers and thinkers who help us think again about what we think we know every day. We really appreciate all you do for us.
Thank you. We all love being on your show.
All right. Fantastic. And that's Catherine Mengu-Ward, editor-in-chief of Reason. And you can check out her piece at reason.com. And I know you didn't wake up this morning thinking about Hanlon's razor, but now you're thinking about it. And I hope you think again about it, that sometimes it's not that there is some grand conspiracy. It may just be some level of incompetence. But the most important thing is that we don't abdicate our own authority and our own reasoning in that process, because some people in power are really happy you think there's a conspiracy, because they're confident you'll run out of energy before you run out of opportunity to have an impact and actually make a difference. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. This Friday.
At the 50, the 40.
It's BYU's first away game of the season.
Touchdown, Cougars! Rise and shout!
BYU, Southern Methodist University. Pre-game from Dallas starts at 3 with kickoff at 5. Make sure you're listening as you drive home on Utah's legacy home for the Cougars. KSL News Radio.
Winter is coming, but there's still time to replace those drafty old windows before the cold comes and drives up your heating bill. Just make one call and take advantage of the Advanced Window Products Fall Special. $2,500 off on 10 windows or more, and that's $2,500 off their already low factory direct prices, because at Advanced Window Products, they're the factory. Your windows are built in their facility right here in Salt Lake City. You're buying local, and with their lifetime guarantee, you don't ever have to call some faraway state for help. Advanced Window Products is right here, proudly backing up their work. So make one call, save on your heating bill, and get a rebate from the energy companies. Advanced Window Products offers 0% financing. They can even give you amazing new windows with no money down. And don't forget, $2,500 off their factory direct prices, but you have to call now. Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. J.D. Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number Limited Edition smart bed. Limited time. For J.D. Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
It's one thing falling in love with a house, picturing yourself moving in and calling it home, and quite another navigating the world of price negotiating, mortgage lenders, and finding the budget that works best for you. An agent who's a Realtor can make understanding that world easier. Realtors have the expertise, access to proprietary data, and tools to help you get from imagining living somewhere to actually doing it. That's the kind of help we can provide, because that's who we are. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors.
Before you take another injection or another weight loss pill, can you listen for just a second? We just want to talk to you about Soda weight loss, because I was with you. I was so frustrated. I thought, I want to lose this weight and lose this weight fast. I don't want to live one more day like this. But then I realized, but I want to be healthy for the rest of my life, not just for the next year or two while I'm taking these pills. With Soda weight loss, I lost 34 pounds in less than 3 months. It's really sustainable, which is what Tyler says.
I would recommend Soda because it's sustainable. This is lifetime change. I would recommend Soda because it works.
And look, most people, if they go the injection route or the pill route, end up gaining that weight and some on the other side of it. That's not going to happen with Soda weight loss, because they change the way you look at food. You're going to keep that weight off, and isn't that your real goal? Find out more. Go to sodaweightloss.com. It's spelled SOTA, and it stands for State of the
Art.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Britt Johnson. First, former President Trump outlining his economic proposal today, promising low taxes, low regulations, and low energy costs. Second, some of Utah's neighboring states are seeing cases of measles following a rise of unvaccinated students in school. Third, today, U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg announced over $5 million in federal grants for Utah roads. Right now, it's 85 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Well, we always want to look at history to figure out where we are, how we got here, and more importantly, what comes next. And it was today, September the 5th, 250 years ago, 1774. A group of representatives gathered from the 13 colonies of America and held a Congress. Today, we call it the First Continental Congress, and it was a momentous step that transformed a group of dissatisfied British colonies into a revolutionary movement that forged our nation ultimately. It's often glossed over in the extraordinary events, the war that ultimately created America, but we want to pause a little bit and dig a little deeper beyond the headline of the Continental Congress and what happened, how it really took place. A lot of the contentions that were underneath the surface. Fortunately, none of the members that were there in the First Continental Congress could write their feelings about each other in a nice tweet or a social media post. They actually had to use quill and pen and wait for it to get published somewhere. But we're going to dig into this, and there is a fantastic piece. This is a must-read piece. Thomas Shepard teaches war studies at the Marine Corps University Command and Staff College. This is in the Dispatch. You can check it out at thedispatch.com. The Quietly Momentous First Continental Congress. And Thomas, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
You made my day this morning. First, for just noting that it was 250 years ago today that the First Continental Congress began to gather. But give us a little bit of the backstory and what led up to this. We always talk about the Constitutional Convention and what happened in Philadelphia. But this is a lot of the precursor stuff that I think is so vital for us to understand.
It is. We're still a couple of years out from the 250th of the Declaration of Independence, right? So 1776, the American colonies declare their break with the British Empire, but that didn't come out of nowhere. So there was definitely a build up to that, and I would argue the First Continental Congress was a major step. And it really emerged after. So there was a period of tremendous tension between the American colonies and London in the early 1770s, and then things settled down for a bit. And so by December of 1773, things had been pretty calm for a while then, and it was really tea that broke the peaceful relations. So the Parliament granted a monopoly on tea to the British East India Tea Company. People of Boston did not like that very much, and so in December 1773, you had the Boston Tea Party, where some 340 cases of tea were thrown into Boston Harbor. Parliament responds by closing the port of Boston, but also by asserting its right to basically disband the colonial government of Boston. And that freaks out the rest of the American colonies because they see that their own ability for self-rule was extremely tenuous and basically at the mercy of Parliament. And so that's really what triggers the breakdown in relations that leads to First Continental Congress and then is going to move on a trajectory that eventually leads to independence.
Yeah, and I want to pause and just unpack a couple of pieces here because you mentioned a couple of things that I think are so important for us to just stop and really recognize. And that is, one, the day the journey begins is not the day the journey begins. So the fact that this is 1774, 2 years before Declaration of Independence, I think is important. And you actually pointed this out in your piece, that the real revolution, the beginning of the revolution, wasn't necessarily these big things and these big gatherings. It was what was being taught around fireplaces and kitchen tables that started to change the hearts and minds of the people that were here in America. Give us just a little bit more in terms of what was happening there in terms of the real revolution, or that became the real beginning of the journey.
Sure. Well, I mean, you had a spectrum of opinion in the American colonies. You had some who were completely loyal to Britain and completely more or less okay with the policies Parliament was enacting. And that group was getting smaller and smaller. But then even among those who felt like Parliament was overreaching, like the traditional autonomy that the American colonies had enjoyed was being taken away from them and their liberties were being infringed. Even among that group, there's a spectrum of opinion. And you have probably at one end, you've got Sam Adams, who says, if it takes a war for us to secure our rights, then so be it. And then you've got at the other end, the Joseph Galloway types, right, who they don't really like Parliament's policies, but they are more committed to maintaining stable relations between America and London. And so they're not willing to go nearly as far in terms of upsetting the relationship that existed between the mother country and the colonies at that time. And so this is really a conversation that is taking place up and down the American seaboard of, okay, how far are we willing to go to resist Britain's actions? How upset are we really about this? And what cost are we willing to pay to change this relationship and secure the rights that we have traditionally enjoyed as Americans?
Right. And so as you look at that kind of next component to this, and I think this one is in your piece is so brilliantly done and is so instructive to where we are today. You talk about navigating factionalism, and we have a lot of that in the country today. What can we learn from what ultimately brought pretty divisive and pretty factionalized groups together beginning there in that First Continental Congress?
Absolutely. I mean, there was one interesting episode where the Continental Congress was assembling, and a writer, it was actually Paul Revere, rides in with reports that the British Navy had begun firing on Boston and that people were being killed in Boston and basically a war had broken out. Turns out these reports were not true, and later the word comes in that no, actually everything is still peaceful in Boston, but that war scare, I think, helped to sort of pull the colonists together. And so a sense of, okay, we have our divisions, but at the end of the day, our desire for, the safety of ourselves and our families and our desire for security against British overreach overrides some of these differences among us. And so that was helpful. And ultimately there were compromises that had to be made. So I talked about in the piece, there were those in Virginia who wanted the First Continental Congress to vote as a body. And there were others from smaller states that said, no, it should be each state gets one vote. And ultimately the delegates from Virginia had to cave on that because they decided that keeping the Congress together and speaking with one voice to Parliament was more important than that particular issue. And so some of navigating that factionalism just came down to knowing where to compromise and where to draw lines in the sand.
Such important. This is such a great piece. I'd keep you here all afternoon, but we're going to get everybody to go to thedispatch.com. And Thomas Shepard again teaches war studies at the Marine Corps University Command and Staff College. This is a fantastic piece focusing on that First Continental Congress. Thanks so much for joining us today. Great writing, great thinking, and some things that are very applicable, I think, to where we are as a nation today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and that's Thomas Shepard, teaches war studies at the Marine Corps University Command and Staff College. Remember, the day the journey begins is not the day the journey begins, and what took place starting 250 years ago today, September the 5th, 1774, the First Continental Congress really laid the groundwork and also has some important instructive lessons for us today. Go check that out at thedispatch.com. We'll be right back.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top story this hour. Today, U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg announced over $5 million in grants for Utah as part of the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. It will go to 6 tribal communities in Utah to improve roadway safety and lower fatalities. The Salt Lake City Corporation will also get almost $3 million for safety improvements to Redwood Road. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. As Hunter Biden's tax evasion trial was set to begin in Los Angeles, but he will avoid a trial by pleading guilty. ABC's Alex Stone reports from Los Angeles.
Abandoning an attempt by Hunter Biden's attorneys for a plea in which he would not have admitted guilt as 120 potential jurors waited in the courthouse for jury selection to begin, Hunter Biden pleaded guilty to all counts in his federal tax case, putting an end to a trial. Biden telling the judge he understands the consequences of his guilty plea, including up to 15 years in federal prison and a fine of up to $1 million. Biden spoke clearly, showing little emotion as he addressed the judge, admitting his guilt. Alex Stone, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Your money at this moment, the Dow in the red, 219 points. The S&P is also off 16 points, but the NASDAQ gained 43 points. Coming up, we'll take a look at the forecast. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
You have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
This year, head to Abravanel Hall for an elevated movie night. Experience your favorite films in concert with action-packed blockbusters, cinematic classics, and animated masterpieces playing on the big screen while the Utah Symphony plays the iconic movie scores live. Grab your tickets now and see the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park or relive the spellbinding magic of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. More at utahsymphony.org/films.
At Common Spirit Health, we know that lifelong health and well-being starts with primary care. So we have doctors and providers who see you, hear you, know you, and understand you. Because understanding you means understanding your needs. And that leads to a deeper knowledge of the prevention, wellness, and treatment options that may be best for you. It's primary care that treats your whole family like family. It's primary care with human kindness. Discover all the ways you can find and connect with a primary care provider at mountain.commonspirit.org.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
In 2024, dating is a disaster. We've been ghosted, breadcrumbed, stuck in situationships. Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm Caitlin. Welcome to our new podcast, Dating at Her Age. Dating has been so dicey for us, we asked KSL, can we launch an all-new podcast about it?
People use these dating apps. You're not really dating when you're on the dating app.
Dating at Her Age, brought to you by Mountain Home Services. A new episode drops every Thursday on KSLNewsRadio.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Neese.
Pretty quiet out there on the roads. No problems on the Valley freeways. Our main secondaries in pretty good shape. We have had some busier and slower traffic southbound Bangerter Highway between 2100 and 3500 south. Don't miss the sale of the season. Serenoni's Luxury Blanket Warehouse Sale, Saturday, September 14th, 11 to 6. Substantial savings up to 70% off. Serenoni Warehouse Sale, Saturday, September 14th. Details, visit serenoni.com. Ricky Neese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny today, getting up to 87 degrees. Our smoke is clearing out a little bit, and our temperatures are heating up, getting up to 93 degrees for over the weekend. Right now, it's 84 degrees and sunny. I'm Britt Johnson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, as we march our way through the 2024 presidential election cycle, shaping up to be another close, hard-fought battle between the two major political parties, the stark divisions and deep-seated animosity that define our current political landscape are going to be on full display, shown through the tight race where every vote is going to count come November. So what impact does this heightened polarization have on the outcome, and how might it shape the campaign strategies for both of these candidates? Thomas B. Edsall, of course, is a New York Times contributing opinion writer, covers American politics, inequality, campaign strategy, and demographics, and has a fantastic piece in the New York Times talking about how the presidential election got this close. And Thomas, welcome back to the show.
Good to talk to you.
So let's dive into this. It's so interesting on both sides of the political aisle, whether you're looking at former President Trump or current Vice President Kamala Harris. After all the ebbs and flows of what happens when Joe Biden decides to step down and not seek re-election, here we are post-Labor Day, and we're basically back where we started. How did that happen?
Really what happened was that Trump pulled ahead after the debate that he had with Biden. Biden's age really showed, and it was basically an excruciating event to watch, and Biden fell behind. Then he drops out, Harris comes back in, and basically the race returns to a norm, you might say. Right now, the country is very evenly split. The registration or partisan allegiance of Republicans and Democrats is very similar, and it has gone back to a race where it's roughly even with a slight edge for Harris at this point.
Yeah, and so as you look at that, you pointed this out in your piece that some of the ebbs and flows there for the Kamala Harris campaign, she was able to maybe reignite some of those who were kind of sitting on the sidelines or who just were not excited by President Joe Biden, but suddenly they're in, but yet we're kind of stuck with these kind of high floors and low ceilings in terms of what change either campaign might be able to pull off.
Yeah, I was thinking as I wrote this piece about how different this is from, say, 1988 when Mike Dukakis emerged from his convention 17 points ahead, and then he went on to lose to George H.W. Bush by 8, a switch of 25 percentage points. That would be inconceivable these days. The problem, the reality is that Republicans and Democrats, people who feel themselves to be part of one party or the other, are almost immovable, and they really dislike the other party. So the chances of actually getting them to switch their vote is virtually minimal. And so there's this very small sliver of undecided voters that really make the difference in a contest nowadays. And that sliver is maybe 5%, maybe as high as 7%, but it's really tiny compared to what it used to be.
Yeah, very, very small. And you pointed this out in your piece as well, that this is the one area where I think the Harris campaign does feel like they have a little bit of momentum, and that is they have activated some of the movable middle folks in that whatever 3 to 7%. And those who maybe were looking at a third-party candidate to maybe relook at the Harris campaign. It seems like that's where the gap has changed. And how do you see that playing out, if anything, in terms of shifts down the home stretch?
Well, there's going to be a real battle because what Trump has to do now if he wants to win is he has to – the momentum has been generally since Harris got in has been on her side. momentum is a very important factor in the outcome of elections. If you maintain it to election day, you're very likely the winner. So Trump has to do something to really blunt that. So he has to basically make Harris into an unacceptable candidate on issues of crime, immigration, and the various issues that are much more favorable to Republicans. He's had trouble doing that so far, and he has been making a lot of really innuendo-like assertions about Harris. Something has to happen, and he's got people on his side. Chris LaCivita is his top political strategist, and he is the guy who engineered the SWIFT boats for peace in 2004 that really killed the John Kerry campaign. John Kerry had gone in looking like a war hero, and LaCivita really undermined that image of Kerry, and it really hurt him in the general election, which George W. Bush then went on to win pretty decisively. He has the skills to do it, but the problem is he has to get Trump under control and more focused on issues and less on personalities.
Yeah, it's been very interesting. I think that's why the debate next Tuesday will be so telling in terms of that strategy. As you mentioned, former President Trump has been swinging a little wildly, I think, even by his standards, in terms of kind of the pejorative-laced things of how many different things can you insert before, in the middle, and after Kamala Harris's name. And so whether there is an issue, as you say, whether it's immigration, whether it's the economy, that he can change that dynamic. I think what takes place at the debate is going to be pretty significant. And then, of course, the vice president, if she's going to win, she's got to show that she is the clear alternative in that. What are you watching for as we look at that debate that will take place next Tuesday?
One is how authoritative is Harris in a pressured event like a debate. Does she come across like a figure who is firm and in control and presidential, basically? In the case of Trump, does he go off the deep end, or does he actually present himself as a serious, thoughtful candidate? Harris's strategy has been to try to throw him off balance as much as possible. And will she be able to do that in the debate? Will he be able to control himself, as I say, and keep going forward on issues, as opposed to, I think if he does personal attacks during the debate, that will not really help him in this circumstance. I think he's got to turn this back into an issues debate in which he wins the issues. Harris has really been striking in the gains she has made on issues. When you ask which candidate would be better handling immigration, handling crime, handling the economy, Harris has improved over Biden by leaps and bounds, and he's got to get that back into Republican favorable territory, where it is not now at this point. It was barely there. It's not enough to win right now.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. Thomas Edsel, New York Times opinion writer. Great piece. You can check that out at thenewyorktimes.com. And Thomas, as always, appreciate your perspective and insight into the ebbs and flows of what will be a very entertaining few weeks as we march our way towards the first Tuesday of November. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
All right, and that's Thomas B. Edsel from the New York Times. And there are so many things that we're going to be watching in the coming days. Again, marching up to Tuesday, where we'll have the debate. It'll be on ABC. We know the rules are all getting hammered out in terms of what will and won't be allowed. And then the question will be, as Thomas laid it out correctly, in terms of can former President Donald Trump be disciplined and keeping it issues focused? Can Kamala Harris be presidential and thoughtful and show that she can go beyond just the talking points and the sound bites? And can she do it in a live interactive setting like that, as opposed to behind a teleprompter or a very scripted or controlled environment in a sit down? So those are going to be the things that will be interesting dynamics to watch play out. And it actually goes to this point that we often talk about, and that is that campaigns are rarely won. They're usually lost. And you usually lose a campaign, any campaign, not because you don't have the right skills or talent or ability. It's because you let your weaknesses become the driving or dominant force in your behavior. Same is true in our professions and in our relationships. In most of those places, the reason people fail is not because they don't have the right talent or skills. The reason most people fail at most things in life, we fail because we allow our weaknesses to drive or become the dominant factor in our behavior. We're going to watch this play out in real time in a debate for President of the United States coming up on Tuesday. All right, we're going to step aside for one last commercial break. More Inside Sources coming up next on KSL News Radio. Stick around. We got you covered.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates. This weekend only, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Join KSL on the Movie Show this Friday from 10 to 1 at the Layton NPS Store at 1150 North Main Street in Layton. NPSstore.com.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds, which could be life-changing. I mean, you could put that money towards that zero-turn lawnmower you've always wanted. And after using its edge-shaping technology to meticulously sculpt the face of the Mona Lisa into your grass, you'll become the undisputed king of Saturday morning lawn care, leaving your neighbor and sworn enemy Gary to question his place in the delicate neighborhood ecosystem. And it's all because you could save money switching at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, not available in all states.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up! And call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single line 1, 5, and 10 gig data plans with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plans offered by T-Mobile and Verizon January 2024.
You wouldn't know it, but most financial advisors are put in a box. I'm Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I want to provide you a little insight about financial advisors. Most financial advisors have to sell what their company requires them to sell, and many advisors have to only adhere to what's called a suitability standard. A suitability standard is a limited standard of care, not requiring what's sold to be best just suitable. Advisors with this loose standard often have limited investment and product selection. Trajan Wealth is held to a fiduciary standard, which is the highest standard of care in the advisory business. And that's just one of the many reasons we have billions of dollars under our care and attract clients from other advisors. Raise your standards today and call Trajan Wealth. Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our clients' portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
None of these 7 people scored the winning touchdown in last year's championship game. None have gone into space or gone on tour with Taylor Swift. Yet 7 special people in the community deserve your attention. And September 7th at the Utah Valley Convention Center, starting at 6 p.m., you can give it to them. Join Community Action Services and Food Bank in celebrating the contributions of 7 extraordinary members of the community. Then see the premiere of the Food and More Store, a pop-up giving experience you can only experience at this event. Plus, you'll have the chance to peek inside their new mobile food pantry. Dinner, live music, entertainment. Get details now on how you can be a part of this exceptional community night. Visit casfb.org and learn more about the evening, the individuals being honored, and how to be there to take it all in. casfb.org. Community Action Services and Food Bank, providing food and more to neighbors in need in Wasatch, Summit, and Utah counties.
Have you been wanting to find the secret to losing weight and getting healthy the natural way without drugs or injections? At SaltLakeCityFatLoss.com, we know the secret to losing a half a pound to a pound of fat every day naturally, safely, and effectively, without counting points or calories. No exercising, no prepackaged meals, no hormones, no injections, no drugs or surgery. Go to SaltLakeCityFatLoss.com now.
I'm Maria Chaleos. Salt Lake City Fat Loss has made it possible for me to lose weight as quickly as possible. I've now lost more than 40 pounds without rigorous workouts or injections, and I know exactly what to do to keep it off. Check it out for yourself at slcfatloss.com.
Many clients lose 20 to 30 pounds in about a month or two. That's up to a pound per day. For your free private phone consultation, call 801-450-1882 or go to saltlakecityfatloss.com. Our staff will walk you through our entire program, talk about your health goals, and see if it's a good fit for you. Go to saltlakecityfatloss.com now. Results may vary.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
I'm Dave Cawley, investigative journalist and host of the podcast Cold. Don't miss Cold's new Season 3, where I look into the unsolved disappearance of Cherie Warren, a woman last seen leaving her job at a Salt Lake City office in 1985. Police cast suspicion on Cherie's estranged husband and boyfriend, but never made any arrests or recovered Cherie's remains. Find Cold Season 3, The Search for Cherie, anywhere you get your podcasts.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Britt Johnson. First, Hunter Biden's tax evasion trial was set to begin in Los Angeles, but he will avoid a trial by pleading guilty. Second, Zion National Park is the first national park system to fully transition to electric transit. Third, the State Department is levying new sanctions against Russia. Right now, it's 84 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. Great to be with you today, as always. I am Boyd Matheson. As we round out the program today, we started in a little different spot than we normally do, as we get to think again about what we think we know. And we actually started with this whole concept of radical, that it's time to get a little more radical in the world. And I'm not talking about radical left or radical right. I'm not talking about radical terrorism. But we've been talking throughout the program today about some pretty thoughtful things that we need to get a little bit more radical about, like radical curiosity, like really starting to rethink and ask more questions, better questions. Questions we need to be asking ourselves as we scroll through social media, as we consume news in whatever platform we're consuming the news on. You got to be asking questions. You got to be radically curious. You can't be content with the status quo. And so we need a lot more of that, especially as we come down the home stretch of what will be a contentious and close political season. It just is. If you missed some of our previous guests during the program today, of course, you can always go check out the podcast, kslpodcast.com, then just go right to Inside Sources, and you can find all of our guests and those individual segments, and a great way to just consume those and really rethink what you thought you heard or maybe what you think you know about a particular topic. We were just having conversations with Thomas Edsall from the New York Times and talking about the fact that we're in this divided point as a country, and it causes these campaigns to have pretty high floors and pretty low ceilings. And what I mean by that is, after all the things that have gone on over the last 48 days from the moment that President Biden declared that he would not seek re-election, that he would not be the nominee, we've had all of this energy, all of these ebbs and flows in terms of what's going on in the race, and now here we are post-Labor Day, and we're basically back where we started. Which means that a lot of the momentum that the Harris campaign was feeling was not really changing the minds of a lot of folks, but it was just activating a few of the folks that just weren't going to show up for Joe Biden. It wasn't that they were going to ever vote for former President Trump, but they just were disengaged and disconnected from the process because they didn't like either choice. But these were mostly Democrats who, for whatever reason, had just said, you know what, maybe I'll show up on the first Tuesday in November. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll be busy. But now they had something to vote for in Kamala Harris, and so she felt that surge of momentum. That's an important thing in a campaign. But when you have a high floor and a low ceiling, that means the number of people who are movable is pretty small. And I think that's also a sad thing because that sort of prevents radical curiosity from taking place. And I believe that a lot of the American public is in this movable middle space where they want to have a different kind of conversation. They want to be radically curious, not about what names you can call the other side or what bumper sticker slogan you can put up. These are people who actually want to have a serious conversation about compassion, maybe even radical compassion. They want to talk about self-reliance. They want to talk about community. They want to talk about opportunity and upward mobility. And neither side's talking about that. So those are the folks that I think will ultimately make the decision, especially in those 7 swing states. But the question will be, does anyone say anything that rings true to them? But I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of shift on the Democratic side. People who were going to vote for Joe Biden are going to vote for Kamala Harris. And those who have been in the Donald Trump camp for the last 2 election cycles will be there again. And then there'll be this little sliver that will really make the decision. So high floors, the solid base in a divided country is pretty solid for the Democrats and the Republicans. And I think where we've got to get as a nation is a whole lot more radical curiosity that causes us to challenge both of the political parties and all of the traditional thinking. Say, why do we have to do it this way? What would happen if we did it this way? There are better solutions out there, to be sure. And the fact that both sides are running on their belief, and it's a pretty rock-solid belief, that gridlock in Washington, D.C. will prevent them from having to fulfill any of the promises they're making on the campaign trail. That is a sad statement, and also a true statement. Both the Harris campaign and the Trump campaign know that they can make some pretty wild and outlandish promises, knowing that most of them, as we like to say, will not have a snowball's chance in Guam of ever becoming law because of divided government and the divisions between the House and the Senate, the Democrats and the Republicans, that no one will be able to get to the compromise that would lead to a solution. That makes for cheap politics, bad policy, and a much weaker nation. So we got to get a little more radically curious when it comes to we the people as we engage in this whole process. And we'll keep doing that here on Inside Sources. I'm Boyd Matheson. Thanks for joining us today. And as always, as you go out into the world, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. Right now, 86 in Salt Lake City. Still a bit smoky. KSL's top story. We're going to have to wait till morning to find out more about the West Haven mother and 3 young children found dead in a car. KSL News Radio's Jessica Lowell with the latest.
The Weber County Sheriff's Office says they'll share the latest at 11:30 tomorrow morning. We've yet to find out exactly what happened and who might have been responsible. But we do know a 32-year-old woman and 3 children, ages 4, 2, and 1, were all found with gunshot wounds dead in a car in a driveway in West Haven around 10 p.m. on Tuesday. Police haven't said how the 4 were related, but they say they don't have any suspects in the case and don't believe anyone else is involved in their deaths. We'll continue to follow the story closely on KSL News Radio.
Meantime, over the past month, we've heard of several cases of Utah kids getting a hold of guns and using them, which might make you wonder if parents can be held liable. KSL News Radio's Adam Small says it's complicated.
Whether a child accidentally hurts themselves or goes out and hurts someone else with their parent's gun, KSL legal analyst Greg Skorda says there's no one factor that determines if a parent is legally responsible.
What is the big picture here? Where was the gun? How was it stored? Was it reasonable the way it was stored? Was the gun loaded?
Greg says it's all decided on a case-by-case basis, with the focus being on whether prosecutors feel there was recklessness or negligence involved. But even if there was, Greg says sometimes, namely when a parent loses a child, it's not even worth pursuing.
What good would it do to prosecute this parent at this point, given that they are suffering immeasurably already?
Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
Utah House member Tyler Clancy is hosting a community conversation tonight about the state of child welfare in Utah. Despite all the criticism surrounding the Division of Child and Family Services, Clancy says DCFS is full of great people who are passionate about helping children. They just need more support.
What we're focused on is making sure the system is in place to support those great workers, making sure they have the resources they need, and making sure that they have all the tools in their toolbox to help kids not fall through the cracks.
Tonight at the Provo Library at 6 p.m., author Celeste Edmonds will share her story about growing up within the system. They hope to have a discussion with the community about what can be done to better serve abused and neglected children. The 14-year-old suspect in yesterday's Georgia high school shooting turns out made threats about his school as long as a year before he was even investigated by the FBI. Retired FBI Supervisor Carl Schmay told David Dujanovic the agents did everything they could, even though it wasn't enough.
There wasn't anything else they could do. They couldn't arrest him. I've seen some reports that this was also referred to the school to kind of monitor the kid. But, you know, this is just heartbreaking because the system actually worked the way it was supposed to, and yet we still had this tragedy.
Schmay says most speech is protected by the First Amendment. A threat has to be extremely direct and specific to be used as evidence. That 14-year-old in Georgia has been charged with murder. Maria Chaleos is live at the KSL National News Desk.
Jeff, prosecutors charging Colt Gray as an adult with 4 counts of murder in the deaths of 2 students and 2 teachers. 17-year-old Stephanie Reyna was in class when she and her classmates heard the banging in the hallway. Her teacher, football coach Richard Aspinwall, was shot as he ran into the hallway to see what was going on.
He was trying to crawl back to us because he was shot in the hallway and he was just in the doorway.
Aspinwall was one of the teachers who died. President Biden says he and the First Lady are mourning the victims.
As a nation, we cannot continue to accept the carnage of gun violence. I'm a gun owner. I believe strongly in the amendment. We need more than thoughts and prayers.
The president once again calling for bipartisan action to pass gun safety legislation. The Biden administration's campaign to degrade the Kremlin's war machine continues with new penalties targeting Russia's energy sector. State Department taking aim at dark fleet of ships accused of subverting trade restrictions to transport the country's energy products. And 2 weeks after the Houthis disabled a Greek-owned oil tanker, it continues to burn with more than 1 million barrels of crude on board. stored.
Still posing potentially catastrophic environmental disaster and a navigational hazard.
Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh says efforts to retrieve the tanker from the Red Sea have so far been unsuccessful. Live from the KSL National News Desk, I'm Maria Chaleos, KSL News Radio.
Today, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg announced more than $5 million in federal grants for Utah. KSL News Radio's Britt Johnson has more.
It's part of the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. The money will go to 6 tribal communities in Utah to improve roadway safety and prevent fatalities. But we also get some money towards improvements in Salt Lake City. We'll receive almost $3 million for safety improvements to Redwood Road.
The Redwood Road project will focus on pedestrian safety. We'll get updated signals, high-intensity crosswalk beacons, and more sidewalks. KSL News Time. 3:05, it's time for First Look Traffic, and who are you?
Well, you might remember me from a week or so ago.
Ricky, it's great to have you back.
Thank you, Jeff. It's good to be back. Well, our drive home this Thursday afternoon, we're already seeing traffic filling in and slowing down southbound I-15, Murray to Midvale, and UDOT says we have a crash in Davis County. It's westbound on 7th South SR 193 in Clearfield at the on-ramp to southbound I-15. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
The candidates and cooking. Stay here. My Minute of News is on the way. Next.
It's me again. And of course, I'm at the annual Fall Extravaganza at J&J Garden Center in Layton. And what a great time to buy. Right now, all containerized trees, all shrubs, and all perennials are 20% off. You heard me right. J&J's entire inventory of containerized trees, shrubs, and perennials are 20% off their regular price. J&J Garden Center definitely has the best products at the best price and most definitely the best service too. But don't take my word for it. Come experience J&J Garden Center for yourself. Take advantage of their incredible fall tree, shrub, and perennial extravaganza. Take the Layton Parkway exit, Main Street to Gentile, then west 2 miles. You've got to see it to believe it. You really do.
Country grown to your home, J&J Garden Center.
September means it's time for Any Hour Services free furnace sale. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and as summer comes to a close and falls right around the corner, the weather gets, well, perfect. And when the weather's perfect, people need a little extra incentive to replace their heating and cooling system. That's where Any Hour Services free furnace sale comes in. For the month of September, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. And there's no catch. There's no raising the price on the air conditioner first. There's no making you buy the most expensive air conditioner to qualify. There's none of that. There's just a desire to keep our technicians working while the weather's mild and a genuine appreciation of you for helping us keep them busy. So if you've been thinking about replacing your old furnace and air conditioner and want to know exactly how much you can save during our free furnace sale, call Any Hour Services today and schedule a free estimate. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Join your friends who rely on KSL each morning for the fastest routes to work and school.
I am listening for the traffic. I'll always know if somebody's going to be late to work. That's often what's on when I'm driving.
Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s.
On KSL News Radio.
This is My Minute of News, brought to you by Any Hour Services, electrical, plumbing, heating, and air, anyhourservices.com.